Hey guys, it's Kai. From modern plumbing to control over a force of nature, here are 10 of the greatest inventions humankind has ever made. Number 10. The printing press. The printing press was the first of many media, changing the way we collect, store, retrieve, critique, discover, and promote information. It participated in the Reformation, the Renaissance, and the Scientific Revolution. History tells us that Johannes Gutenberg invented the first printing press in Europe's Western civilizations. Olive and wine screw presses have been known to have existed in Europe since the time of the ancient Romans. Other presses for the binding of handwritten books were also in use. Gutenberg was the first to transform the concept of printing by introducing its invention to the printing world. Who would have thought that introducing a screw into the works could have such an amazing effect on speed? The use of mechanical presses, along with other innovations on behalf of Gutenberg, revolutionized printing and made it somewhat of an industrial process. The output of his machine was something unheard of at the time. Papers and books can now be produced in a cheaper way, reach more people, and do all of that faster than ever before, thanks to mechanization. Naturally, this turned into the standard and preferred way of printing. Before the invention of the printing press, everything happened very slowly, but the game was changed for good. People just couldn't compete with the aforementioned machine and copyist, regardless of their experience and skill. It could never match the output of their mechanical counterpart. As soon as the printing press was introduced, the game was over. Number 9. Modern plumbing. Imagine what the world would be like if there was no way to remove sewage and introduce fresh water to the densely populated areas. First of all, everything would look different than it already is, just because the concept that we have about what a city must look like would be impossible to achieve. Tall buildings will be out of the question, and just try to wrap your head around how much water a population of metropolis will need on a daily basis. If somehow you are able to provide the necessary H2O, sadly, your troubles are just beginning. Why, you might ask? Well, if your body is in need of hydration and then it receives it, it's just a matter of time before it goes through your system, and after doing its job, it will need to exit somehow. Now you're in trouble. The good thing is that thanks to modern plumbing, all of the delivery and removal of used water can happen almost instantaneously, and we all have the water at our disposal. Thanks to plumbing, we are able to bring comfort and beauty to our way of life due to the fact that we are able to use water in several key areas of our own home, like the kitchen and bathroom. All of this happens without a thought of what it would have been like if we haven't invented pipes and the way to move water back and forth so we can have it at our fingertips at all times. The possibility of not being able to wash your hands after using a toilet? Gross. Number 8. Pesticides. Since 2500 BC, humans have used pesticides to prevent damage to their crops. The first known pesticide was an elemental sulfur powder used in Sumeria about 4,500 years ago. By the 15th century, toxic chemicals such as arsenic, mercury, and lead were being applied to crops for purposes of pest control. In 1939, Paul Mueller discovered that DDT was an extremely effective solution for dealing with insects that were bringing harm to the crops. It quickly became something that was used all over the globe for being so effective. However, in the 1960s, it was discovered that DDT was disruptive to the reproduction of many species of birds that were fish eaters. And that was a big warning sign that was endangering the biodiversity. Science did what it could, and different substances began to be produced and took the place of DDT in the agriculture sector. With the passing of time, pesticides became less and less harmful for humans and more potent and more protective of the crops. Since the 1950s, the usage of so-called field chemistry has grown around 50 times, and nowadays we use 2.5 million tons of pesticides every year. As long as the chemicals are safe for human consumption and are not harmful to animals, and they don't pollute the soil and poison the water, I guess we'll be all right. Science has done so much for the well-being of humankind. Let's just hope that in the future, it will come up with an eco-friendlier way of protecting the crops that we all rely on. And now for number 7. But first, if you're new to the channel, welcome. Be sure to subscribe and click the bell so you don't miss out on more videos like these. Number 7. The automobile. The first self-propelled vehicle was invented by the French mechanic Nicolas Joseph Cugnot. However, it ran on steam, and as revolutionary as it wasn't quite fit for the widespread use due to its price and bulky design. It was an important beginning that begged for further development. In 1885, Carl Benz designed and built the world's first practical car with an internal combustion engine. Things were slowly but surely crawling towards the image of the automobile of today that we all use in our daily lives. But we weren't quite there yet. In 1885, Gottlieb Daimler developed the internal combustion engine even further and patented what is widely recognized as the pioneer of the modern gas engine, and later built the world's first four-wheeled vehicle. So basically, the modern automobile has been evolving since the end of the 19th century, and by the looks of things, it isn't planning to stop anytime soon. Engines are getting more and more efficient and powerful. Nowadays, cars get out of the factory with engines capable of producing 300 to 400 horsepower, something that was unthinkable back in the day. Old sports cars didn't have the characteristics like these, and the whole automotive industry doesn't even show signs of slowing down, not even one bit. We have started to produce electric vehicles that are capable of a non-polluting way of travel, while electric motors within them can produce mind-blowing torque in HP figures. So we started with steam, and then later on we tried internal combustion engines. Now we're experimenting with electric cars. What does the future hold? Do you think in 20 years we'll have flying cars? Let me know in the comments. Number 6, the steam engine. In 1698, an English military engineer and inventor by the name of Thomas Savery patented the first crude system machine, while in 1712, Thomas Newcomen invented the atmospheric steam engine. The steam engine marked the beginning of the Industrial Revolution thanks to the efforts of James Watt. He perfected the steam engine by coming up with something simple yet brilliant. A centrifugal regulator kept the engine running at the desired speed, and the whole thing is such a simple and elegant modification of a well-known concept that it can easily be crowned as one of the best ideas of all time. An upgrade to the steam engine started a whole new era in the development of mankind. Trains, machines, steam everywhere. What if everything was still powered by steam? Can you even imagine what our society would look like under the steampunk title? Other than looking cool, we would have a heck of a hard time to breathe. Imagine being stuck in traffic with everyone around you dumping coal in their steam engines. It might look cool, but it certainly would be harmful to the environment. However primitive the steam engine was, it did set in motion things that changed the way our world worked, looked, and traveled. It was an important step to which we owe a lot. Next up for science, teleportation device. Who knows, it might just have been inspired by the steam engine. Number 5, transistors. The transistor is the basic building block of circuits that controls the operation of computers, mobile phones, and all other modern electronic devices. On December 16, 1947, William Shockley, John Bardeen, and Walter Brain succeeded in building the first practical transistor in Bell's Labs. This work followed them from their wartime efforts to produce an extremely pure germanium crystalline, mixing diodes used in radar units as a frequency mixing element in microwave radar receivers. Nowadays, transistors are used in all kinds of circuit boards. The smaller they are, the better. A tiny invention like this one opened the doors for technology that otherwise would be either unthinkable or so big and impractical that it could never be reached at mass market. High-end integrated circuits of computer processors can literally use 1 million or more transistors on a single chip. Most desktops also have several gigabytes of memory chips that require 1 billion more transistors. Plus, your peripheral chips can take millions more in addition. If there were no transistors, we wouldn't have computers, which sounds horrible, and we wouldn't have gotten as far as we did as a species without their help. Such a tiny invention that brought an amazing array of technology along with it. Number 4, the computer. The analytic engine was a brainchild of Charles Babbage way back in 1837. It was the first conceptualized design, a fully programmable mechanical computer. Due to an unstable financial situation and an inability to resist design adjustments, Babbage never actually managed to build his analytical machine. Automatic, large-scale punch card data processing was performed for the U.S. Census in 1890 through tabulation machines designed by Herman Hollerith and produced by Computing Tabulating Recording Corporation, which later became IBM. Fascinating, right? A concept that was not even prototyped due to insufficient funds that led to the creation of the pocket computers that we all carry around with us today. Have you seen the purchase cards that I mentioned earlier? Do you know how many of them were needed to store 4 or 5 megabytes? The answer might surprise you. You would need exactly 62,500 cards to be able to write this data down. Things have changed a lot, haven't they? Today, we have thumb-sized flash drives capable of storing terabytes upon terabytes of data and whatnot. Our computers can communicate with each other and with space via satellite. Imagine what the world would be today if back in 1837, Mr. Babbage somehow was able to fund and build his machine. We might be flying from planet to planet by now for vacation or a honeymoon. Would you take a vacation to another planet? Let me know in the comments. Number 3, plastic. Plastics are made up of organic condensing or admixture polymers that may contain other substances to improve performance or economy. There are few natural polymers that are usually considered plastics. The first synthetic polymer-based plastic was made from phenol and formaldehyde, the first viable and inexpensive synthesis methods being invented by Leo Hendrik Baekeland in 1909. The product was known as Bakelite. Subsequently, polyvinyl chloride, polystyrene, polythene, polypropylene, polyester, acrylics, silicones, and polyurethanes are among the varieties of plastics developed and have had a great commercial success. Plastic is the gift and punishment of our time. Easy to manufacture, light and durable, it's used on almost every aspect of our modern lives. The downside of plastic is that it can't recycle itself in nature, and it's one of the biggest pollutants of the ocean. Scientists are developing new kinds of biodegradable plastic that can help the environment cope with the extra pollution by itself. When will this plastic enter mass production? Only time will tell. Until then, please be a bit more considerate when you use plastics and make sure to dispose of it in the proper way. With a great invention like this one comes great responsibility, and we all owe it to nature to do our best to recycle as much as we can. Number 2, how to harness electricity. Electricity existed all the time, but the system of devices needed to generate this power and distribute it to individual buildings was an invention originally launched by Edison. It effectively made electricity a commodity, and his Pearl Street station was the first power station in the world. Nikola Tesla's invention of alternating current, AC, made it possible to transmit electricity over long distances, leading to the national grid we know today. Now everyone in the West and in most countries around the world can take advantage of the network to power everything from light bulbs to computers. If you look at it from a different perspective, mankind has assumed control over a force of nature. We all know how dangerous electricity is and what it can do to the human body. The fact that we have found a way to tame it and use it for our own purposes, that's something. If somehow we lost control over electricity, we would need to go back to the ancient ways of having fun, which including throwing rocks in a river or digging holes in the ground. Have you ever dug a hole in the ground with your bare hands? Kids today surely do not do that. Electricity might just be the answer to the fossil fuel crisis that we are now facing. Could it be that the thing we were looking for all along was right in front of our very eyes? Number 1, vaccines and antibiotics. 3 centuries ago, almost everyone having an infectious disease was considered a goner. When the plague exploded in 1347, it wiped out nearly half of the population of Europe in just 2 years. When diseases like smallpox arrived in North America, they reduced indigenous populations by about 90% in a century. As early as the 1800s, tuberculosis was the main problem in the West. Almost no one reached old age at that time. That's one reason why elders were honored. Today, elderly people are everywhere. Nothing unusual about surviving more than 70 years. Modern medicine is the reason behind all of that. If it wasn't for immunizations and antibiotics, none of this would be possible. We have come so far in our development as a species that we have found a way to artificially prolong our lives, maintain our bodies, and overcome some of the things that nature throws at us. We definitely have science to thank for that. At one point, we might totally isolate aging as a factor. Some genius might invent a pill that will keep us young forever. The possibilities are endless, and we only have more amazing things to look forward to. Thanks for watching. Which of these inventions do you believe is the most important? Let me know in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye!